generate a report when you want specific data from a client. So to give you an example, I have an example client here with several private notes and questionnaires. Some of the private notes and questionnaires contain data and some others don't. For example, if I click on default private notes, there is some placeholder data here. And if you notice, when I scroll around, there are these categories to the right. So the data can be in different categories. For example, there's a supplements category where there's some supplements data. And if I go further down, there is some other categories, such as this current food intake assessment. So the key here is to note that you have both private notes and questionnaires. Within private notes and questionnaires, there's multiple of them. So I have the default private notes, follow-up, new private notes, etc. And I have different questionnaires too. And then within each questionnaire or private notes, there is further categories. So those are the different levels of breaking down the data. This could be very complex. You could have dozens of different private note sets with dozens of, it can be as simple or as complex as you need. And it can grow as your client base grows and as you follow up with the same client over an extended period of time. Now the challenge is, how do I generate a report that contains, let's say if I only want the supplements section from these private notes, for example, or if you only want a particular questionnaire or a particular data category that is present in multiple notes. There's a lot of flexibility with the reports to generate exactly what you need, but there are some caveats, and I'm going to show you just how to do every single case. So when you go to a report, you can first choose your client. So in this case, I'm just going to choose example client. You can name the report. I'm going to just call it new report. And now there are a couple of considerations here. So first of all, there is private note categories. So you need to select the ones you want. If you don't select anything here, then there'll be no data from the private notes. So if you notice, there's this supplements. That was the first table that was shown earlier. There was this current food intake assessment that was shown earlier as well. So the software will only show in here boxes for categories that contain data. So if you have a category here that there is absolutely no data available, it will not even show. So either of these checkboxes will get you some data. So you can tick them one by one, mix and match. There's also custom, which is if you added custom fields and you didn't change the category, the custom tag will contain your fields that you added to the notes. So you can tick them all. There's this quick select all and select all as well. So let's say we want absolutely all the data. So I'm going to just click select all. And then the same is available for questionnaires. So questionnaires have categories. The categories here are different than for the notes. And you can again tick them one by one, the ones you want, select them all or unselect them all. So what this is telling the software is, generate me a report that has data from these different categories for private notes and data from these categories for the questionnaires. If you don't select any of these boxes, no data will be shown. You'll get a blank report. Now, additionally, there are some other options here. Oh, and by the way, there's this little reminder here that you can hover with your mouse and they give you a short summary. And then HTML fields. So these ones are special. This could be, for example, if you have a disclaimer or some sort of legal information or some terms and conditions, you may have a field in the questionnaire that is non-interactive. It's just a piece of text. And sometimes you want to include this into a report, but sometimes you don't. So if you want to include it, you can tick this box. In case of doubt, you can just select everything because you will get all the data in the report and then you can delete whatever is not required. So that could be a good starting point if you're not sure. And similarly with the headers, so the headers are like large pieces of text in large font that maybe say, just personal details, lifestyle. So you can include them, and if then you don't need them in the report, you can remove them. So now, if I were to click this button to generate a report, this would get me basically all the data available for this client into the report, and that's because I chose all of the private notes categories, all of the questionnaire categories, and even the HTML fields and headers. If I want to be more specific though, I can click here, Advanced Options, and this is saying use data from these questionnaires and use data from these private notes. So if I only want data from a particular questionnaire, like let's say I only wanted data from the 3-food diary, I can untick all of this, I can select them all, just say only from this diary. And if you unselect everything, no questionnaires will be used. And the same in here, it says use data from these notes. So if I only want it from these default private notes, I can untick the rest. Again, there is a reminder here of what this does, and I'm going to unselect. So for example, if I unselected everything and I click generate now, there'll be no data because I'm telling the software use data from these questionnaires and none are selected, and use data from these private notes and none are selected. So in my example, I just want to pull all the data from the software. So basically every single checkbox here is ticked. This will just compile all the data available for this client. And then as described, you can check and uncheck any of these boxes here if you want to be more selective. And once you practice a few times, you will be able to generate a report with exactly the data you need. This can be useful, for example, if this is a client you've been meeting for several months, like up to a year, you have a lot of historical notes and you only want to get the most recent ones, you can be selective and only get the most recent data, so that if you're tracking progress on certain variables, like let's say body weight and composition and progress with a plan, you can just get the latest. Right, now I'm going to click generate. This may take a while because I chose all the data available for this client. The more data the client has, the longer it takes. And here it is. So now this report just has everything available for this client. So you see it's a lot of data was added. And your client record may have more or less data than this, depends on how much data was added. For example, these are these headings that I mentioned earlier, that you can tick a box for them. And there is tables, there is data in different formats, and now you could just go through different sections, and this is a text editor, so you can select any chunk of text that you don't want and delete it, and just edit your report and keep only the data that you need. So hope this helps. This just gives you an overview. The report functionality is very flexible, and it can be very powerful because it allows you to mix and match exactly the data you need. And once you familiarize yourself with the interface to generate the report, you should be able to get exactly the data you need every time. So hope this helps. Thanks for watching, and feel free to reach out by clicking the Ask a Question box if you have any questions. Thank you.